Hi there, this is Harry and welcome back to Advanced English Lessons with Harry, where I try to help you to get a better understanding of the English language. In this particular lesson, this Advanced English lesson, we're looking at useful phrases that you can use in discussion, but in formal discussion. So these phrases are going to be more formal, but you can use them. I'll explain them and give you a situation when you might use them. So we'll go through them together. There are 10 in total. Number one, if you don't mind me saying so. So this is, as I said, quite formal and it's polite, and it's if you want to be a little bit more tactful. So all of these particular phrases are going to allow you to be a little bit more tactful. And what that really means is that you won't insult anybody by accident or design. People will like the sort of English you're using and they will see that you've got a good command of English. So the first one, if you don't mind me saying so. So when might you use that? Well, you could use it in any situation. If you don't mind me saying so, I think the presentation is a little too long. So it could be in a business meeting in-house with your team and somebody's doing a dry run or a practice of a presentation and you're just giving some feedback. So you might say politely or tactfully, yeah, if you don't mind me saying so, I think the presentation is a little too long. I think our customers or our clients really get a little bit irritated if a presentation goes on too long. So try and reduce it to 15 or 20 minutes. So if you don't mind me saying so. Or you could say, if you don't mind me saying so, I think you need to focus more on what the product can do for them rather than what it can do for us. So you might be just highlighting your views, your comments about something you've heard, listened to, and you're trying to understand how your customers or your clients might react to it. So you would use this sort of expression, if you don't mind me saying so. I see where you're coming from. And again, great tact here. I can see where you're coming from. Usually we would use this expression when we're about to say but, okay? Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. It means I understand your point, but I still don't fully accept it. Yeah, so I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, I can see what you're trying to say. I can see what you're trying to achieve. So the expression I can see, or I see where you're coming from. I understand exactly where you're coming from, but I might do it a little bit differently. So we're being quite tactful. Look, don't take this personally, but again, here another tactful way in which you're going to disagree with somebody, you're going to challenge perhaps what they are saying, but you don't want them to feel as if this is a personal attack on them. It's not. It's an observation, it's a comment, a criticism, but it's not personal. So look, don't take this personally, but I think what we need to do is this, this, and this. Or look, don't take this personally, but you need to be a little bit more aggressive, or you need to be less aggressive, or you need to be more pragmatic. So you're going to introduce some criticism of the way somebody has said something or presented or written something, and you're trying to be tactful in how you get that across. So look, don't take this personally, or please don't take this personally. My comments are only about the content, nothing to do with you as an individual. Yeah, okay. I do take your point, but, and again, here we've got the but. So all of these expressions are really being tactful because we are going to introduce some disagreement. We are going to raise an issue about how it's presented, what is in the presentation. So we're not going to be in full agreement with whoever is making the comments. So things like, I do take your point, but. So you understand exactly what they're trying to say. I do take your point, but will our clients understand it? Or I do take your point, but will our clients really, really be on side with that? Or do we need to go into it in a little bit more detail? Yeah, so I do take your point, meaning, yeah, I know what you're saying. I understand that this is really important to you or to us, but it may not be so important to the customer. Number 5. Now, this is an expression we will use when we really want to tell the person that we don't agree in any shape or form with what they say. But again, we don't want to say just, look, I don't agree with that, or that's rubbish. We can use an expression like, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Now, it's very formal, I beg to differ, but what it means is, I'm sorry, but I don't agree. I beg to differ. I'm sorry, but I don't agree. Okay? So when you say I beg to differ, it means, okay, yeah, point taken, that's your view, and you're quite entitled to it. But I'm also entitled to my view, and I beg to differ with you. I beg to differ. And if you do like this particular lesson, then please like the video, and if you could, subscribe to the channel because it really, really helps. No offense intended, but. So again here, criticism coming up, a disagreement coming up, you're not going to accept everything the person has said. So you make it very clear at the beginning that you're in no way trying to offend them by saying, I don't like what you say, or I don't agree with what you say, and you're trying to sugarcoat it a little bit, as I said, to be tactful. No offense intended, but. Okay, you could quite simply say, I'm sorry, I don't agree. I'm sorry, that's complete and utter rubbish. Yeah, I don't care what you think. This is what we should do. But as I said, this is all about being tactful, and these are comments and expressions that will help you to be tactful in those formal discussions. And what you don't want to do is upset people unnecessarily. So here, what we're trying to say is, no offense intended, but I have to tell you that I don't agree. Yeah, I'm not, again, criticizing you as an individual. What I am doing is criticizing what you are saying, or how you're saying it, or how you're putting this across. So no offense is intended. So I don't want you to get unduly upset. Number 7, similar expression, with all due respect. Now this is really, really polite, very, very tactful. Yeah. So what it means is, with all due respect to you as a person who I admire and respect, I have to say that I'm not really on the same page as you are on this. I don't really see the point you're trying to make, or even if I do see the point, I don't agree that it should be presented in such a way. So with all due respect to you, I would like to put forward an alternative, and that's exactly how you will say it. With all due respect to you, I think we're going about this the wrong way. I think we need to look at this from the customer's point of view. And if you look at the problem from the customer's point of view, you can understand very clearly why they have a problem. Yeah, so with all due respect. Number 8. Now again, going back to being tactful. I mean this in the nicest possible way. So whatever I say, don't take it up wrongly. Don't get insulted. Don't feel that this is a personal attack on you, because it actually isn't. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're trying to do. You have a really, really difficult job, whether it's in marketing and finance or human resources. But I mean this or that in the nicest possible way means, yeah, okay, whatever I say, you might have a problem with it, you might take exception with it, but it wasn't intended that way. So I mean this in the nicest possible way. But I really, really believe that we've got to take a very, very different approach. We've tried it before and it never worked. I want you to look at this, but I mean this in the nicest possible way. Okay, so being very tactful, honest, but also tactful and polite. Now, here we're getting a little bit more, or a little bit stronger in our opposition to something that somebody has said, but we're still trying to be tactful. I'm afraid I have to say. So this is really saying, when you introduce the words I'm afraid, there's definitely a negative going to follow this. I'm afraid I have to say that I disagree. I'm afraid I have to say that this just isn't acceptable. We need to do better. We need to improve our communication with our customers. We need to improve our level of sales. I'm afraid I have to say that this just isn't going to cut ice with the board. So perhaps your team is preparing or has prepared a paper for the board, and you're getting a chance to look at it before it goes to the board, and you're trying to be as kind as possible with your criticism, because you know when it's presented to the board, they will just cut it in pieces if they don't like it. Yeah. So I'm afraid I have to say that this is not going to do it for the board. We're going to have to be a little bit more thorough. We're going to have to be a little bit more detailed, and we're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive with the statements that we make. Okay. Now, number 10. That's not the way I see it. Okay, so again, here's a very strong but tactful way of telling somebody that you don't agree with it. Whatever they've put forward, whatever they've suggested, whatever solution they've come up with, it's just not going to work. That's not the way I see it. This is the way I see it. So if there's a problem that's landed on your desk and somebody comes to you and says, okay, this is what's happened, this is how I see this situation, and you sit there, you listen, but you have an idea in your own mind that this is not really hitting the nail on the head. So you have to say, well, that's not the way I see it. The way I see it is blah, 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 blah. So you're disagreeing, but in a very tactful way. Okay, so there are 10 expressions or phrases all ready to use, all phrases for you to use in formal discussion where you can be as tactful as possible. So let me give them to you one more time with a sentence at the end, just so you can hear them in full flow. Okay, number 1. If you don't mind me saying so, I think we need to start at the very beginning. I see where you're coming from, but I don't think that the customer will agree. Look, don't take this personally, but really, do you think we are going to achieve our sales using that strategy? I do take your point, but I think we have to really be a little bit more aggressive with the way we approach our marketing in the next year, because we've really got tight targets to achieve. Number 5, I beg to differ with you. I really don't agree with your view on this particular problem. I beg to differ. Number 6, no offense intended, but I really think we need to take a fresh look at this problem. Number 7, with all due respect to you, this is a slightly different problem, with all due respect. I mean this or that in the nicest possible way I can. This is not a reflection on you personally. Situation is very difficult. Number 9, I'm afraid I have to say that the board are unlikely to accept this recommendation. We really need to go into this in much more detail, I'm afraid I have to say. And then finally, number 10, that's not the way I see it. I understand where you're coming from, but that's not the way I see it at all. We should look at this again. That's not the way that I see it. Okay, so 10 useful phrases, formal discussions, but all of them, when you use them and put them into the English, they'll be quite tactful. They certainly won't be seen as insulting, and it's a good way to lead into any comments or points or views that you might have. Pick a couple of them, try to work them into your written English, try to work them into your spoken English. When you get more comfortable with them, come back and use a few others. Now, if I can help you any further, well, you know the drill by now. Just write to me, www.englishlessonviaskype.com. Very happy to hear from you. Very happy to help you with some additional information. Okay, this is Harry saying goodbye. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And join me for the next lesson.